Hi there, it's John, and welcome to the channel. 5:43 a.m. on March the 11th. It is Tuesday morning. Hope you're having a great day today. I've got the big blue mug of coffee. Thanks so much for watching yesterday's video, how Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives basically made Mark Carney eat crow. It's about how the Conservatives made the Liberals give up on their signature climate change plan, which was the consumer carbon tax. Many of you pointing out that there will be a carbon tax under Mark Carney. We know that, and Pierre Poilievre mentioned it yesterday when he did a news conference. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about a tale of two leaders and how important it is for Pierre Poilievre to ask questions of Mark Carney. That's why debates are going to be very important in the upcoming election, whenever that may be. A lot of people are saying it will come soon because the Liberals are riding high in the polls right now, and it will come fast, meaning it will be about the shortest period we can have to have an election here in Canada, which I think is 37 days. We need to have at least two debates. In the last election, back in 2021, there was only one. Debates are very important because Pierre Poilievre is an absolute beast when it comes to ad-libbing, extemporaneous speaking, when it comes to debating. I mean, you've seen him in the House of Commons. You've seen the way he has debated against, a hostile journalist or a hostile news organization. He's very good for it. Mark Carney is a blithering idiot. And when Mark Carney speaks, most of the time he says nothing. Now, I'm probably going to get this video demonetized because I'm running this, but I want to run it because it proves a point. Now, if you can give me a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel, that is payment enough for this video, but watch this. This is from a TV show from the 70s and 80s. Now, there's three people in this. There's the newsman, Les, there's the sales manager, Herb, and the owner of the radio station and general manager is named Mr. Carlson, and he is running for council, and Les is trying to tell Mr. Carlson how to answer every question, but by not answering any question. So those of you who are older like me will know this immediately, but this is Mark Carney.
The secret is to appear to answer all the questions when in truth it's all mumbo jumbo. Here, let me show you. Herb, ask me this question.
Surely. Miss Candidate, what is your energy program?
Right now, I'm devoting a great deal of time and study to that problem. And I expect to issue a position paper on that. A position that is at once simple, yet complex, flexible, and above all else, fair to every American.
So that's Mark Carney, okay? Those of you who are older know that's from one of the greatest TV programs of all time, WKRP in Cincinnati. So basically what Mark Carney does is he tries to justify what he's done, and then he uses a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo, which means nothing when it comes to answering the question. And that's what that clip says. So I'm going to show you Pierre Poilievre, who is an absolute beast, in just a moment. But first, let me show you a clip of Mark Carney. And this is how debates could really expose this guy. And we got to get Poilievre and him face to face a number of times during debates, at least twice in the next election campaign. So here, from a couple of weeks ago, I did a video called Mark Carney is an Idiot. I'm not kidding. That's what it's called. You know, I thought about actually sending out an invitation to Mark Carney and his campaign team to see if I could get him here to do an interview. I think I'm going to do some interviews here. They're never going to come on this channel. But I did this about the Rosemary Barton interview he did on the CBC. Now, she's asking him about his business dealings, and everybody wanted to know his business dealings prior to him becoming prime minister, and he never answered the question. So here's me talking about that a couple of weeks back on this issue, and I'll come back and talk about that and show you Pierre Poilievre as well and how good he is when it comes to answering questions that should be easy to answer. This is a setup that Carney should have seen coming a mile away. Shouldn't we know? Shouldn't he have to disclose his dealings prior to being voted in as the prime minister of the country in a couple of weeks? Let's hear what he has to say about this.
You are not yet subject to ethics requirements.
I don't have any power, Rosie.
No, but would you?
And look at him. He seems uncomfortable through this segment. And he's going to say something that I've mentioned a couple of times in this video already.
Would you put anything out there for Canadians to better understand your business dealings and your financials? picture
Well,
before you're elected?
obviously, I'm going to comply with all the ethics guidelines, conflicts of interest guidelines, blind trust.
But during an election, before you have a seat, would you be willing to show Canadians what they're dealing with and what you've been dealing with?
Well, let's be clear.
Let's be clear. See, he's uncomfortable. Look at him.
Okay. I was UN Special Envoy for Climate Action. I was chair of Bloomberg.
He doesn't even know what he's done because he's flustered. I think there's something in the background. What is he hiding?
Chair of Brookfield on a number of philanthropic boards and did a lot of charity and other work. So that's all disclosed in the public domain. I will immediately subject myself, if I am elected Liberal leader, of course I'm going to immediately subject myself to all the ethics guidelines, conflicts of interest.
So he goes about answering the question, but he doesn't answer the question. Now, first off, one of the last things he says in that clip is, if I am elected Liberal leader, I will immediately subject myself to all the ethics guidelines. I want to know today what your business dealings are. I should have known yesterday because that would have been immediately after Sunday when you were chosen the Liberal leader. Now, the other thing about this is he says, let me be clear. And I made a reference to that in that clip a couple of weeks ago. When somebody says, let me be clear, they're not being clear. Whenever you hear a politician say that, they are not being clear. So always question it when they say those things. But he never answers the question. Now, the other thing I find interesting about Mark Carney is this guy never seems to hold down a job for very long. Have you noticed that? He's in and out of jobs all the time. What do you think about people who are constantly moving from job to job? I don't think they're very good at it. I don't think he was a very good Bank of Canada leader, Bank of England leader. I mean, Liz Truss, former prime minister, thinks he's a freaking nightmare. He's out of Brookfield now. He's part of that G-Fans thing, which was the global warming thing. He had to get himself out of that real quick because it's under investigation in the United States right now. So somebody needs to ask him the question, Mr. Carney, why can't you hold a job? So now let's look at Pierre Poilievre. Now, the other thing I guess maybe I should mention right off the top was, Carney should have seen that question coming from a million miles away. He should have had a good answer to that question, but he didn't, and he did look uncomfortable. Now, here is Poilievre yesterday, when Mark Carney should have been out talking to people. He was nowhere. They're going to keep him hidden from you during the election campaign, because as soon as he opens his mouth, he sounds stupid. He sounds like an idiot. Here is Poilievre yesterday, and no doubt he's thought about this answer, but people who really believe and have conviction are easily answer questions. So Poilievre knows everything he's done. He's proud of it. And boy, does he turn it around to Mark Carney. Now, this clip is a little bit longer, but watch the whole thing because it's masterful. And this is why I want to see him go up against Carney in a big way, at least 2 times. And then there's a wild card coming up. I want to show you that. I might be just speculating way too much, but there might be a wild card in upcoming debates, so stay tuned for that. Pierre Poilievre yesterday.
Mr. Poilievre, what economic and diplomatic experience do you have to go up against Donald Trump?
Oh, quite a lot, actually. So I was the Minister of Jobs and Housing in the Harper government, during which time housing cost half as much as it does today. I helped Mr. Harper cut the GST, cut income tax, cut business tax, and balance the budget. Over my time in Parliament, I've been scrutinizing and studying the books on the Public Accounts Committee, the Operations Committee, the Finance Committee. And if you want any proof that my economic ideas are the best, the Liberals are all trying to pretend that they're copying them right before the election. All the big economic questions of the last 5 years, Mark Carney has been wrong and exactly wrong, and I have been right. I said 5 years ago the money printing would cause inflation. He said deflation was on the horizon. I turned out to be right. I said the carbon tax would drive up food prices, and it did. Drove them up 37% faster in Canada than in the United States of America. I was the first parliamentarian to predict that we would have the inflation crisis, while Carney, Freeland, Trudeau, and others were saying that we would not. I was the first one to be, along with my Conservative colleagues, fighting for pipelines. Pipelines now everyone claims that they support after opposing them for the last 10 years. So if Mr. Carney is so smart on economics, how is it that he was so wrong for so long on all of the economic issues? One thing I don't have experience with is taking jobs out of Canada, moving them to the United States, selling out our resource workers to support Middle Eastern resource workers. That's not the kind of experience that I have, but that's not the kind of experience that we want.
Poilievre is just so good at this. He's one of the best. That's why we have to have at least 2 debates. And he needs to get out in front of this right now. I mean, if a debate is called quick, there'll only be one. He needs to challenge Carney and the rest of the candidates to at least 2 debates in the next election. He needs to do that right now. Now, who is involved in the debates? Well, you'd have Poilievre, Carney, Elizabeth Mays, the Green leader, Blanchette, and Singh. Who's left out of this? Now, this is the wild card. Now, I may be completely wrong in this, but Maxime Bernier is going to make a stink about not being involved in the debates. Now, if Bernier were involved, who would he hurt the most? I think he would hurt Poilievre. So don't be surprised if somebody floats a question out to Carney, if this becomes an issue, and they ask him if Bernier should be in, and Carney says yes, because they want to hurt Poilievre. I'm just throwing that out as a wild card, but it could be something coming down the road. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know. Please give me a thumbs up for the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share it if you like it, and I'll see you in the next one.